There's no smoking. All right, now if you see somebody up ahead that is in the river and they shouldn't be, they think they're drowning, well, before you can yell out to me, Captain Carl, toss them a life vest I have underneath these hatches right here. Just tell them to stand up and walk over the edge and get out of the river before the park police comes and gives them a $500 ticket. Because, you know, most of the area we'll be on our journey today is only about 3 or 4 feet deep. Oh. And also, most of what I'll be showing you here, the historic part of the Riverwalk was built between 1939 and 41 to include this beautiful outdoor amphitheater we are approaching. I'll tell you about that. So, guys, we're basically just settling in. We're going to have a nice leisurely cruise as we go around in a clockwise loop for a couple miles around the river and just wind up right back where we started. And like I say, I'll give you some history of San Antonio, talk about the different cultures that have contributed to our rich cultural history, and talk about some of the sites, because not everything's open. I'll try to let you know certain things, what the hours are, so you can really maximize your time here, not just have a fun boat ride, but do a little history and check out some places to go to and just have some fun. So starting with right here, the Arneson River Theater. What's up, guys? They were on my tour earlier. That'll be you guys later on. Usually they yell out from like a restaurant, you know, as I go by. But that's the first time I blew up there. I go, all right. Yeah, fans everywhere. You guys will be my new fans. So right here it's good. I can kind of tread water because there's no boat coming because we're kind of slow. Can't usually do this, but that gives us an opportunity to check out this beautiful theater that usually would be hopping, but right now things are closed. Thank you. And here comes the boat. So let's keep going. All of our river parades are broadcast from here, but of course things are on hold. So check out that stage as we leave it behind, because I bet you've seen it before. And this bridge is in a movie. I grew up here and I've seen the movie many times, but it wasn't until I got this job I realized, oh my goodness, this bridge is low. Check it out in that Sandra Bullock classic, Miss Congeniality. Yeah, you see it again? Now I'll pull over here and let that fast boat pass us up. So when you watch the movie again, you'll see her standing on that stage talking about world peace. Yeah, and then you see her come walking on the bridge, and when you see it, now, in that part of the movie, you don't see the river underneath, but I bet you're going to be picturing me. So like, oh my God. Every time you watch the movie from now on, you'll laugh and remember your time here in this little semi-private tour with Captain Carl. All right, so taking off from here, as long as Dallas and Houston aren't going back today, because Amarillo is still thinking about staying, so I'm going to convince you ladies to stay for a little bit. There's a next thing to see, and I know you girls are going to love this because the kids love it. Well, I did too. I'm a lot older, but I'm just really a kid at heart, right? So everybody, kids and adults, are going to love this. Over here to my right, see that big sculpture cowboy, right? Big part of our history, and everybody. Amarillo, definitely. Dallas, Houston, all of us. You guys have heard of the Chisholm Trail, right? Yeah. Started here in San Antonio, went up north. There were cattle drives that went through Amarillo too, Dallas, Houston, all that, right? And the rodeos. We all have a commonality here, so you can go behind the sculpture. There's a 3-story building. It's called the Briscoe Western Art Museum, named after our governor in the 70s, Dolph Briscoe. He was a big Western art enthusiast. So there's a lot of cool things to check out there, like I say, with the, you know, the cow drives, the rodeos, the marquetos, the Spanish cowboys and the missions in the very beginning. But talking about the Alamo being closed, right? Well, there's 3 different Alamo connections I'm going to tell you guys about on our Riverwalk that are here on the Riverwalk. You can check out while you're here, since the Alamo's closed. The first one is right back there at the Briscoe on the 3rd floor. It's my favorite part of the whole museum, okay? And the kids really love it. It's an interactive. They have this whole separate room, okay? There's a very large interactive diorama of the Alamo. So like they'll be walking about the Alamo conflict, right? The actual battle. So you go to this one spot, like where they figure Davy Crockett was, right? And the girls can push this button, and they hear him saying something, or run to the other side of Santa Ana. So it's really neat. And also, as soon as you go in, there's a life-size replica of a stagecoach. Very, very cool. So a lot of great things there at the Briscoe. And for military, active duty military, getting free. So that's always good. Now, the hours are 10 to 5. Today is 10 to 3, so it'll be closed by the time we finish. That's why I'm saying, if you're not going back right away, check that out maybe tomorrow. Now, here's a cool thing over here to my right. See, it's not just shops and restaurants or museums. There's some of the natural beauty as well, and we didn't even plan this. This is so amazing. This actually just happened by the tree. Take a look. You see the roots all the way around? So the roots of this large cypress tree actually formed this island in the shape of a heart. But you can see the point is back there. So that's why we call this Marriage Island. And for over 100 years, people have been getting married right on that island. Now, things are shut down right now because of COVID, just like at the Arneson River Theater, we're not using it. But a typical year, like last year, we see over 300 weddings take place right there on Marriage Island. Because that spot can be reserved from the city of San Antonio half-hour slots for a fee. But again, that'll be getting going once things get, once we get these COVID numbers under control. So now we've come into the widest part of the river. And it's still fairly shallow, though, only about 3.5 feet deep. But it gives me an opportunity to move over here to the right and let this boat over here, the boss, pass me up. Oh, maybe not, I don't know. But we can look up ahead and see that beautiful building up there with a pretty green tile roof. All right, since we're all Texans here, guess what? Here's a little San Antonio brag for me here. That building there is our county courthouse, and of the 254 counties in Texas, this one here, the Bayer County Courthouse, is actually the largest and the oldest continuously operating historic courthouse in all of Texas. Initially completed 1896, and several expansions since then. It was built using all native Texan granite, red sandstone. Now that we come in and get a better picture of the whole thing, you see over to my right, the northern end of the courthouse, that tall, rounded dome. Well, not directly to my right. Yeah, it's still up the courthouse. Thank you. That rounded dome of the courthouse lets us know that it was built in what's called Romanesque Revival style, which is very common architectural style here on the Riverwalk. The other very common one is Neo-Gothic, and we see that in the building we just passed. But don't worry, it's not that you missed it. I need to let the boss get in front there. And we get a better view when we get out from the bridge. We can turn around and then see the very first skyscraper in San Antonio. Like I said, Neo-Gothic, right here. Look at that with the American flag flying up there. That is called the Tower Life Building. You see those gargoyles sticking out the top? That tells you it's Neo-Gothic. And there's a lot of other buildings here on the Riverwalk that have gargoyles on them because it's Neo-Gothic. So when you see them, you can tell folks, hey, yeah, that building's Neo-Gothic. They ask you how you know that. You're like, well, I took Carl's boat tour. Like, well, who's Carl? Oh, this tall boat captain ducks on all the bridges. So there you go. That's a great shot there, the highest flying American flag in the city, because that 100-foot flagpole on top of the 404-foot tall Tower Life Building opened up in 1929. Now you saw how the boss took a left, right? Well, we're going to take a right turn, so we're doing a clockwise loop. There's a marina to my right. There's also a marina to my left over there. So he's going back there. And you might have heard he honks the horn because we can't see on either side. So if there is a boat out there, we don't want to crash because we're about to enter into 15-foot deep water. So we honk the horn. Kind of a strange horn on this boat, right? But it's enough. It works. If there's anybody out there, they'll hear it. The one last night was just, it was really loud. But this was just like beep beep, kind of like Roadrunner. All right. So as we take this right turn, we'll head north for a few blocks and look behind. See, there he is. He's not going to plunge to his death. Looks like it just drops off. It does. It drops off 15 feet. He's going to take a right turn and go into the marina. So the river actually continues another 180 miles or so back that way, south all the way to the Gulf of Mexico. The Riverwalk, too, continues another 10 miles, connecting all the other 4 missions. So the entire Riverwalk is about 15 miles, but we're here just in the historic part. So the river begins a few miles up north, flows south, loops through downtown, and out that way. Like I said, this is 15-foot deep water because we built this. Army Corps of Engineers in the mid-1920s built this as a flood channel to help regulate the flow of water to go behind us when the rains went ugly, and that it does. Because you know what, guys? This is Flash Flood Alley. You guys in Dallas live in Tornado Alley. Houston, you got the hurricanes, and growing up military, you know, I lived in Alaska, we had earthquakes, I lived in Tornado Alley, we come here, find now this is Flash Flood Alley. It's actually the most heavily prone flash flood region in all North America. So by having this flood channel here, it really helps for safety, plus it gives that little great bed in there in the downtown area. It makes it into a loop for our tours, which is nice. So the Alamo, as I mentioned, 1718, if I hadn't mentioned that, I meant to. So that's what started the history of San Antonio. Now we're coming upon the second Alamo connection in just a moment. Take a look to my left. Up these stairs here through this kind of jungle, all these trees that have just grown over the last few months. Back there is Main Plaza. Can't really see it, but it's there. We have, there's only 4 colonial main plazas left in the country. Ours is the only one with a cathedral. So on the southern end of Main Plaza is the courthouse you saw. Through the trees on the western end of Main Plaza is our San Fernando Cathedral. That's our second Alamo connection. The cathedral is the oldest cathedral in the country. Right, it dates back to the arrival of 56 Canary Islanders on the 9th of March, 1731, when they came here at the request of King Philip V of Spain to make this right here the very first charter municipality in all of Texas. So that was 1731, just 13 years after the beginning of the city that we date to the founding of the Alamo, which was May 1st, 1718. 13 years later, 1731, by then we had all 5 missions here And with the Canary Islanders and the families, we were able to start growing more as a town and then city. So the Alamo connection, guys, is a year after the famous battle in 1836 that led to Texas independence. Juan Seguin came back and brought the ashes of the defenders of the Alamo right over there behind us to the cathedral. Now the Alamo is several blocks straight up ahead, east of us, and so the cathedral there west, just a little short walk that way. And we will go by near the Alamo in a little bit, but we got some more things to talk about on the way. Now, if you come back once the bars are open, because we're all here in Texas, so we know the government closed the bars again. Over here to my right, this bar is pretty cool. It's called the Esquire Tavern. Not only do they have the longest wooden beer top in the whole state of Texas, over 100 feet long, so it's another San Antonio brand for us here. Well, they also opened up as the very first bar in the Riverwalk, before there even was a Riverwalk, 1933, December 5th to be precise, because you know why? That was actually the day that Prohibition was repealed nationwide. And somehow, when they opened up, you know what? They opened up fully stocked and ready to go. What do you say to that? Let's just leave that there. Well, they have food as well, so you know, if it was open, the family here could go in, just get a booth or table. But right now, they have closed as well. They will be opening at some point, just like the Alamo will eventually. We just don't know when. Now, obviously, over here is another one of our loading docks. Folks getting on the boat. So we have 3 of them. This is outside the Aztec Theater. The third one will be right at the end of our tour when I show you our mall. So you remember at the very beginning when we were going through the Artisan River Theater and there was that bridge that was so low? And I said, you'll see that in Miss Congeniality. Well, there's a lot of movies filmed here, but in our short amount of time, yep, you see it. I can only tell you about a couple, but this bridge coming up was also in a movie. But before I tell you what it was, because it was filmed on the other side, you gotta see the other side of the bridge, let me show you how much higher this bridge is than the one in the Artisan River Theater you see in Miss Congeniality. When you watch the movie Selena, you'll see this side of the bridge, and you can even picture me there, and go, yeah, Carl didn't have to duck on that one. You see that side of the bridge as they walk on this part of the Riverwalk past this beautiful hotel right under the bridge there. Let me tell you about this hotel, all right, guys? We have 18 four-diamond hotels in San Antonio, a dozen of which are right here on the Riverwalk or downtown. And so if you're already planning your next trip, maybe you want to stay here at the beautiful Omni La Mansión del Rio. It's a beautiful hotel. It opened up early April 1968, just in time for our World's Fair, but it started out as a school over 100 years earlier. March 1st, 1853, it opened up exactly 17 years after the Battle of the Alamo, 8 years before the Civil War. St. Mary's School for Boys, very first school of higher education here, ultimately becoming St. Mary's University that relocated 3 miles west of here. And St. Mary's University is now the oldest Catholic college in all of Texas. It all started right there. But you see, guys, that's actually a common theme in San Antonio. We like to preserve our history. You know, we love it here. We love the history. We like to preserve the buildings, not tear them down at all possible. So a lot of them we see have had different functions. You know, they've changed over the years. This next building was about to be going through that itself when COVID happened. Look to my left, over Sun's in the lake too, but all the way up, it looks like this very tall building was flat, just on this side. But the 323-foot tall building there, 10th tallest in the city, up until last fall when it closed, that was the 23-story tall Nick's Hospital. Opening up November 1st, 1930, the Depression had already started, and then the Riverwalk was built about a decade later. Well, it almost lasted 89 years as a hospital. A lot of medical firsts took place there. Girl I've seen last year used to work there too. It was sad when they announced that they were going to close it and 585 people were looking for work at other hospitals here. But then they announced that we're going to turn into a hotel. But like I said, then the whole world shut down with COVID, so they put a pause on that. Once things get going again, that will become a hotel. And right in front of the boat, and soon to be to my left, or the left of the boat, is another four-diamond hotel that faces the Alamo. So on the other side of the Hyatt, right here, the Hyatt Regency Riverwalk Hotel, is the Alamo. And the Hyatt was built in 81, so before the Hyatt was built, we'd be able to see the Alamo right here from the Riverwalk. But now you got to go through the Hyatt to get to the Alamo Plaza. And like I've been saying, the Alamo's closed, but if you haven't been to Alamo Plaza, you can certainly do that if you want to do it right after the boat tour. We'll be ending just straight up ahead, a few more blocks. So we've already come full circle. So just walk through a short, maybe 5-minute walk from the Hilton to the Hyatt. Cut through the Hyatt, it takes you over to Alamo Plaza. And not only have we been talking about the Alamo, a lot of different importance there, not just from the battle and the mission, 300 years and the start of the city, but the 5 missions as of 5 years ago on the 5th of July, lots of fives there, became a World Heritage Site for UNESCO. And so far it's the only one in Texas. And it's the 23rd in the U.S. Now over to my right, this building is a great example of how, like I've been talking about, buildings have been changed over the years. To my right, down below, you see the name, Casino Club Building. So now the bottom part's a restaurant, top part is residential. There's 37 apartments there, and I'm trying to give one of them. I'd love to live right there. Wouldn't that be great? Yeah, it's a walk to work like I did when I lived in Europe. But anyway, the history begins in 1927. The German immigrants built it. They used it as a private club, and then somebody else used it in the 40s. And then it sat vacant, 50s and 60s. Thankfully, it didn't get torn down. Got renovated in the 70s and 1980, placed on the National Register of Historic Places. We have 154 in Bexar County alone. A lot of them you've already seen here on the Riverwalk. So that's pretty neat. This area right here, where we are, all these restaurants, from the bridge in front of me to the bridge behind me is what we call River Square. So lots of restaurants here, no hotels here. So, and almost all of them are reopened. Not all, but most of them. And I mentioned about the local architect, right, who came up with the design of the Riverwalk. Well, you'll see right here in front of the Commerce Street Bridge, to my right, in those big leaves there, there's a bust of Mr. Husband. You can come by here and read this plaque. There's a little bio of him. So he did pass away 40 years ago next week, July 22nd, 1980. He came up with a plan for this Riverwalk as he was inspired by Venice, about the gondolas and all that. We sorted out the gondolas. Like I mentioned, we didn't get these electric ones until just 3 years ago. 2 years later, in 1946, this restaurant to my right opened up as the very first restaurant on the Riverwalk, called Casa Rio. Very big family-oriented, been family owned and operated from the beginning, so there's lots of tables out here. You can sit outside, watch the boats come by, yell out to me, "Hey, it's Carl!" I'll wave back.